So today I wanted to talk about gun shows. They're starting back up again, and I wanted to touch on two things about them. One, I wanted to talk about what it's like if you've never gone to one, because I know some people never have, and there's a lot of people getting into firearms, so I want to discuss that. And then after that, I want to talk about what I saw different at the last gun show I was at, which is the first gun show I've been to since March of 2020 for obvious reasons. So let's go ahead and talk about that, I guess. So if you've never been to a gun show, I would definitely recommend going. There's a lot of different interesting things you'll see there, and it's not like it's been portrayed in some media. A bunch of sketchy guys with tables selling firearms to who knows who for no reason. It's all very up and up. There are regularly throughout whatever gun show I've ever been to across the eastern seaboard, there's always some place where you go and do a background check in order to buy a firearm. If you buy a pistol and you're in a state that you have to have these things put on your license, you can purchase it and then you can have it. You can arrange to have it shipped to an FFL. So everything is on the up and up. One thing you may see that's kind of strange about that is you may see people walking around literally with firearms on their shoulder, and they will have a sign sticking out of the barrel or tied to the butt saying what the firearm is and that it's for sale and sometimes how much. Any firearm you see there that is being carried by a person has been checked, it's emptied, and it's usually got a zip tie through it, so the action can't be moved. So don't worry about that, but those are things you will see because people will bring collector's items or items they want to trade because this is a big thing. For instance, the Syracuse one has an ungodly amount of tables. They literally hold it at the state fairgrounds in a great big building. It's monstrous. So that's something that you may see. It's a little strange, and once again, if you as a person, instead of a dealer, see someone with a firearm and they're carrying around with a sign you'd like it, you can buy it from them. You just go over to the table and do a background check, and then there's your transaction. You will see all sorts of stuff, not just firearms. Mostly firearms, obviously, it's a gun show. You will also see some crafts. At the last one that I was at Sunday, there was a lady who made very pretty pot holders. You will see Native American crafts. You will see a lot of bladesmiths. Pardon me. You will see knife makers of different skills, all the way from the guy who makes Damascus blades by hand to the guy who sells stuff you'd see at the flea market. So there's a wide variety there. You will see people selling pepper spray and little pepper ball shooters. You'll also see people selling toys. You'll see people selling rubber band guns, things like that. And one of the things you will very much see are political action groups from time to time. They're not really awful. They will ask you, hey, would you like to? And it's usually a petition or would you like to join a group? And a lot of times at smaller gun shows, the National Rifle Association will be right there as you go in the building and say, hey, would you like to sign up? And we'll give you a discount on it. There's usually a charge to enter one. At the Syracuse one that I was just at, it was $8 to enter per person. Some places it depends on your age, it depends on if you have an NRA membership, that can be varied. But you will see medical kits, you'll see people selling tools, parts, all sorts of stuff. In fact, at this last one there was someone selling power tools, DeWalt power tools. That was kind of weird. You will see people selling food. There's at the last one I saw a guy who I've seen for many years. He's an Eastern European gentleman. He does specialty sausages, stuff like that. There's a great big pickle thing because everybody loves pickles. That's a cat. You'll see all sorts of stuff, and like I said, not just guns. But when it comes to guns, what you will see will literally run the gambit, all the way from Revolutionary War period stuff, high collectibles, to, say, replica black powder stuff, to $20,000 shotguns, to, we literally saw what's called an AR-50, which it's a bolt-action 50 caliber rifle. I don't know why it's called an AR, but it was there, and I know those things are not cheap. You'll see all sorts of stuff. If you can think of it, it was there. So if you appreciate beauty especially, you'll see some really nice scroll worked pieces, some really interesting wood work on some of these rifles. Some of them have, beautiful gold inlay or all sorts of things done to them. The other thing that you will see, and I've seen it at many shows, is usually some kind of woodworker. At the Syracuse Fair, there was a lady who does wood burning into tabletops and things. Mostly landscapes, animal faces, things like that. It's very, very nice. And same thing with the knife makers. You'll see all sorts of different things there. You will see militaria, be it military surplus stuff like sleeping bags and stuff like that. You will also see war memorabilia, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, etc. It's not like there was a time when you would see a lot of what we call Nazi memorabilia and things like that. You don't see as much of that anymore, number one, because most of it's been bought up. Number two, it's not very popular for obvious reasons. But it is still part of the history, and it can be found at a lot of gun shows. So those are some of the things you will run into when you're there. As to the people there, everyone's really friendly. You will run into, from time to time, dogs under the tables. A lot of people bring their dogs with them, especially if they're service animals. There was a gentleman at the Syracuse gun show we were at Sunday. He had his service dog with him and his service puppy. And his service puppy was in a little tiny pouch that he kept on his chest. And the service dog would not let you touch a service puppy unless you were okay. It was very cute. So you will see a lot of that. You will see children running around. It's a very interesting atmosphere. Everyone's fairly nice. There are some people who like to push sales, but most of the time people are very relaxed. You will see a lot of, like I said, the political action stuff. You will definitely run into people who are opinionated, but they're generally jovial about it, and they'll only talk to you about it if you obviously show some interest. Usually, if you say and just walk away, then it's fine. So you're going to see a massive cross section of people too. You will see gentlemen and ladies of all different descent and what have you, selling and or buying. So it's not what some people think it is. It's not just a bunch of old fat guys with bellies and beards wandering around, buying guns in a back alley. It's actually kind of a festival almost atmosphere. It's very nice. It's very clean. I've never been to one where there was trash on the floor and things like that. So those are some of the things you may see if you go to a gun show, and I really do recommend it, especially if you can appreciate the beauty of a firearm. I mean, some of these pieces that I've seen, there was one gentleman there Sunday who was selling what was called a Giselle. It's an Afghanistan rifle, and they do all sorts of work to it, from scroll work to I don't know what they're called. They're brass tacks. They're fancy, and they do designs into them and all sorts of wonderful pieces. And it's really a fun thing to see and to look at all the diversity there. So that's why I recommend it. You never know what you're going to see, and you never know what exactly you might find. And I find that from time to time I will purchase a firearm or a part that I couldn't find anywhere else, or it was really interesting to me, and that's where I found it. So that's what I have to say for people who are going to a gun show for the first time. For anybody who's made it past this spiel and or skipped forward to it, and you want to know what it was like at the first gun show that I've been to in since March 2020, things have definitely changed a little bit. There's definitely a lot less ammunition. And once again, this being New York, gun variety is very tied to what is legal and what isn't, what can be modified to become legal and what can't. But like I said, there was very, very limited ammunition. A lot of the ammunition that was there, obviously there was 9mm, 40, etc. But I saw a lot of the oddball, what do you call it? The oddball European stuff. Some of the old, large game stuff. A lot of 8x57, a lot of 7.5x55. A lot of, like I said, weird stuff that we haven't seen a whole lot of here in the States for a long time because it's just not popular. That being said, there were people selling cases of 308 and stuff like that, but it was at market price or more. As to, say, pistols, definitely a lot of Glocks, a lot of SIGs, very few revolvers other than black powder, and those were generally at or above market price. A lot of them were being charged a little more than I think they're worth, but that is for me. A lot of collector type pieces, a lot of lever guns, a lot of high end target guns. Like I said, a lot of collectors type stuff. You know, a lot of striped maple and a lot of gold inlay and things like that. You know, Winchester center fires from the early 1900s, things like that. So that was definitely a bit of a change. There were a few tables with ARs of various kinds and price points. You know, all the way down to your $600 AR and all the way up to your $1,000. I didn't see any scars, which is new. I usually see one or two of those at a show. Very few of the Keltec KSGs. Usually there's at least one table full of those. I did not see but one Shockwave or the Remington equivalent. There was another type there by a different company. They look like a toy gun. I don't know what they were. They were actually a bird's head shotgun of some variety. I was not interested. They looked like toys. The change that I've seen there is over the last few years there was a lot more tactical looking pieces than what I saw this weekend, and it was kind of a different. It was kind of interesting. There was definitely a lot of muzzle loaders. As to some of the military surplus stuff, the stuff that we used to buy up fairly cheap, it's no longer cheap, and what is there is usually a little beat up. Once again, it being New York, there are certain things that it would be almost impossible to sell because they're almost impossible to make in New York safe compliant. But there were a few AKs, a few SKSs. If they were in good shape, they were very expensive. If they were in crappy shape, well, they were in very crappy shape. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot less military surplus than I'm used to seeing. There was an armor table. I'm used to seeing armor. The armor was a little expensive, but definitely within market price as of right now. And other than that, like I said, it's just really more of a collector's market than a buyer's. But the caveat I will say for that is I went on a Sunday morning because that was what my schedule allowed. It was not overcrowded. There were a good amount of people there. I did see rifles and pistols walking in and out, not as much as I've seen in the past. There was definitely less political memorabilia or political, bumper stickers and things like that I'm used to seeing. But once again, over the last few years, things were very politicized. So there was less of that this year, which was nice. And that's really the big change. I mean, there's just less of the things that we're used to seeing and more of the high-end stuff, which is not a bad thing. It's just if you're shooting strange firearms, Carcanos and things like that, you can definitely find the ammunition there, versus if you're shooting 243, there was not a single round of 243 there Sunday morning. I checked every table. And that's just the way it is. There was no 7.62 by 25, but there was 30 Luger. So it was a weird little kind of mix, but a lot of the ammunition that was available is antique stuff like old Remington clean bore. So I'm assuming there's a lot of people, clearing out what they've got, either to make room for new or to just get it out of the way. So that's what I saw at the Syracuse Regional Fall Gun Show, and that's one that's held twice a year. They hold one in the spring and one in the fall. So if you get a chance to go out to it, I definitely would recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and you will see some very interesting things. So thank you for listening to me talk about this, and we'll see you next time.